The Olympics, a time for the world's greatest athletes to come together and show off their skills in their respective sport. The idea of winter sports in the Olympics has been around since 1908 with figure skating and 1920 with ice hockey. The difference was the hockey games were played in the Summer Olympics. It wasn't until 1924 that the winter sports would have their time to shine in their very own competition, the Winter Sports Week, at the 1924 Chamonix Games in France. As the years went on, one country showed how dominant they were in ice hockey, with Canada winning the first 4 Olympic Games. But in 1936 in Bavaria, Germany, when a little bit of drama mixed with some unforeseen circumstances resulted in Canada losing to a country not really known for its hockey prowess. Great Britain's last appearance in a top-level world championship came in 1994 at the Men's Ice Hockey World Championship, where they came last in their group. So, as you can see, Great Britain isn't really known for their hockey talent. And for the record, that's not saying all players from the UK suck at hockey. There are many great British players. Charlie Gardner, Owen Nolan, Steve Thomas. I mean, those last two's national team is Canada. But I digress. They do have UK blood pumping in them. Would you be shocked if I told you Great Britain was not only able to win gold at the Olympics, but defeat a team many thought couldn't be beaten?
The story takes us to 1936. In previous Olympics, Great Britain had finished 3rd in 1924 and 4th in 1928. Because of these wins, the game grew through the 1930s in Britain. Originally, Manchester Ice Palace was the only place to host training and matches, but now London was in, Wembley's Empire swimming pool was frozen in the winter, and there were also rinks in Westminster, Earl's Court, Golders Green, and Hammersmith. Attendance at Wembley reached 10,000 twice a week. Players were paid €10 a week, more than Division I footballers. This money earned by such popularity helped the recruitment of foreign players. Previously, the British Olympic team had largely comprised of Canadian Army officers and graduates living in the UK. But now the staff wanted a team full of players born in the UK. J.F. Aharney, please forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, the British Ice Hockey Association secretary, appointed Percy Nicklin as manager and instituted a rule that each domestic team was to field at least 4 British-born players. Then put out a message across Canada pretty much asking, if you were born in the UK, come play some hockey with us. In Canada, the Canadian Amateur Hockey Association was worried about preserving the quality of competition. The problem they had was if players moved during the summer months, when they were out of contract, they didn't need clearance from any authority. In September 1935, Aharney, along with Carl Earnhardt, the captain of Great Britain's team, sailed to Toronto to reason with the Canadian Amateur Hockey Association. An agreement was made that the British Ice Hockey Association would forbid the use of players who had not obtained permission to move from Canada to play in Britain. And the Canadian Amateur Hockey Association would not deny permission to anyone who asked in the correct manner, which I assume was just asking with a smile and some beer. After the meeting, Earnhardt and Aharney sailed back to London to assemble their team, and I gotta be honest with you, the team the UK assembled, for lack of a better word, was badass. Don Daly, a defender, was born in Canada and earned his passage across the Atlantic by working on cattle boats. Then after the games, he fought in the Second World War and was one of the first to find Hitler's bunker, burning his body with petrol from nearby cans, which now sit in the Canadian Museum. Barnsley, born Archie Stinchcombe, helped run alcohol during Prohibition and could only see out of his right eye thanks to a stray dart thrown by his brother. Defender Bob Wyman, a former schoolboy long jump champion, held the British indoor half-mile speed skating record, and in 1934 won the outdoor 440-yard, an accomplishment that earned him a Gallagher cigarette card. And even after the games, he became a lieutenant commander in the Royal Navy. Jimmy Chappell, born in Huddersfield, but raised in Canada, was at Normandy for the D-Day landings. And John Coward would have moved to North America in 1907, except his mother was seriously ill, and therefore were unable to board the RMS Titanic as planned. Once all the teams arrived in Garmisch, the Ligue Internationale de Hockey sur Glace, or the IIHF today, held a meeting in which Canada and the USA were absent. So a further meeting was convened for their benefit the following day. During it, the rules of the competition were explained. The Canadian Amateur Hockey Association complained about players leaving the Dominion without permission. though Great Britain strongly protested innocence. A vote was taken, and they lost. As a consequence, player Jimmy Foster and Alex Archer were suspended for not asking the Canadian Amateur Hockey Association for permission to play, which was the one thing they had to do. Aharney contested that international rules stated a player could leave a country without seeking permission, and the Canadian Amateur Hockey Association suspensions should not apply.
E.A. Gilroy, the Canadian Amateur Hockey Association president, lodged a complaint with the IIHF in September 1935.
The LIHG had not held a meeting until the eve of the Olympics regarding these complaints. Gilroy chose not to object to the two players participating as a gesture of sportsmanship towards Great Britain, or so he says.
In the first round, the teams were divided into 4 groups of 4. The most significant results was Italy defeating the USA, though in the event, USA qualified and Italy did not. Otherwise, Japan's goaltender Teiji Hanma attracted attention for wearing a mask, something rarely seen in those days. And Great Britain, who also beat Sweden to qualify for the next stage. The Scandinavians joined them in round 2 also, which comprised of 2 groups of 4, with the top 2 in each progressing to the final round robin. The next round of the competition started. Great Britain were facing Germany, Hungary, and Canada. The first match was against Canada, and before the game, a problem arose. Jerry Davy, born in Port Arthur, Ontario before moving to England at 16, fell ill. Davy was the team's primary goal scorer. His final career record of 43 points is still a record. Davy forced himself onto the subs bench. Almost immediately after seeing the way the Canadians lined up, Davy was involved in the game again. Nicklin sent him on seconds after face-off, and seconds after that, he took a long shot which Francis Moore, the Canadian goalie, misjudged. With just 20 seconds gone, Great Britain had the lead. Canada was able to dominate the rest of the game with Ralph St. Germain scoring the tying goal. With 80 seconds to go and Great Britain holding on to the draw, a bounce of the puck sent Don Daly streaking away. Alongside him appeared Edgar Brenchley, born in Stinchcombe but schooled in Niagara Falls, Ontario. And when Daly's shot was blocked, Brenchley shot back the rebound for the goal. Great Britain was able to defeat Canada, but that wasn't the end of the tournament. Both Canada and Great Britain were able to win their next games, with Canada absolutely crushing Hungary 15-0. As the final days of the tournament drew closer, controversy started to rise. I'm going to try to explain this as thoroughly as possible. Even I barely understand this, so we'll try our best. So the first 2 rounds of the tournament were played in your classic round robin style. The top 2 teams of each group would move on to the next round, simple as that. The newest change to the rules were that in the final round, you would only play the team you haven't played against yet, and the score from the previous round would count towards the final. In Canada's mind, after the loss, they assumed they would be playing Great Britain again in the final and make up for the loss. But since the rules said the scores from the previous round would count towards the final score, Canada wouldn't be facing off against Great Britain again, only the teams they haven't played against yet. This meant if Great Britain could win against the USA and Czechoslovakia, that would be enough for the gold medal. So to summarize, Canada loses and assumes they will play Great Britain again in the final round robin. The score from the previous round counted towards the final round too, meaning Canada and Great Britain wouldn't face off again, meaning it was impossible for Canada to even achieve the gold medal. Canada threatened to withdraw from Olympic hockey when it learned that the playoffs format would carry over the loss from Great Britain past the first round robin series. This rule had previously never been a part of the tournament, and the regulations had not been announced by the Olympic Hockey Committee. So Canada asked that all 4 teams play another, a suggestion that was rejected. The new regulations had actually been announced by the Olympic Hockey Committee twice. They were explained at the first meeting in Garmisch, and because American and Canadian delegates were absent, they were explained once more the following day. No objections were raised. E.A. Gilroy blamed his delegation's inability to understand French, and by way of revenge, Canada cancelled matches scheduled to take place in Europe after the games. You sure showed them. The USA beat Czechoslovakia, and so did Great Britain. They knew that if they beat the USA, they were champions. The team shared 6 scoreless periods before deciding enough was enough. If the USA could beat Canada by a score that matched or bested Britain's goal ratio, for example 1-0 or 5-1, that would be enough to take the top spot. Canada was able to defeat the USA 1-0, and that allowed Great Britain to become the Olympic ice hockey champions for the first time. Great Britain made history as the first team to ever win the Olympic, World, and European, its second, championships, and the first to win all 3 in the same year, even though the European Championship was based off the results of the World Championship, and the World Championship was based off the results of the Olympics. One last story of this Olympic hockey tournament was the participation of Rudi Ball. The German leadership allowed this top player to lead their hockey team at these German-hosted Olympics, making him the only Jewish person to represent Germany at these Olympic Games.